ways from the road, from Quakertown Farm, it goes under the Quakertown Farm?
If you would allow me on the,
No,
I
it's just, you
have,
can
no, no,
explain, I think you're familiar with that.
but I
with
can,
that
I can
area.
show, I can show that visually to everyone, because we have a satellite image of that, and we can trace that for you, and that may answer your
Yeah,
question.
but it goes across the street, right? Under
It
the
goes
road?
under
Under
both
the road,
roads
and
go
isn't there a
on.
large wetlands there?
I'm sorry?
Isn't there a large
Well,
wetlands across the road?
you can see it on the satellite.
I know, because I know the property.
It's your
Right,
son.
it's
We're
just,
just
no,
not
that you're
property.
thinking of the sun side, but we're talking about the other one.
Pull up the satellite image, I think it's
And then again, in regard to Mr. Blackmer, where he said, the water comes down, well, in the water, you have to have 12 inches of topsoil, which actually is your filtration system, so that if you have that, then that goes down into gravel and your water table is filtered and protected. But if there's just gravel, there's no filtration from that, and then the water just goes quickly through the gravel and then will go out into the water system. And the other situation that I'm concerned about, that we are concerned about that, is the sedimentation basin, because this is a project of greater than 5 acres. And the rules that you operate under, you've accepted are the 2002 Connecticut guidelines. And, okay, here we go. And the guidelines say that you have to have something to catch that storm water, that water drain off, and that, all that's coming down and connecting it. So let's just go
Isn't there silt fencing in that area?
But that's not sufficient, according to the 2002 Connecticut guidelines. Okay, so that's the Wyndham, so come down, and so, here we go, we're right here, quad, okay, so can you enlarge that a little bit, Gail? Okay, and then pull down, do you want me to do it?
Yes, I'm on there.
Okay.
It's all the same.
You can have a seat. Oh, so, let's see, so what we're, I'm sorry, I don't wanna yell in your ear.
What'd you say?
I said. Okay, I'm safe. Okay, so where's the pointer, Gail? Okay. Okay, so what we're seeing here, okay, this is the pool, this is the site, this is the pool, and we'll just enlarge that a little bit. And so what we're seeing is this, here's your water going down, coming down, under the road, going down, and then it's, if you see here, it's labeled Robbins Brook, so it's coming down, and then it's going into, this is called Stump Pond. So this is Stump Pond, and it's headed down this way. Maybe we can do this so it's not as Stump Pond, coming down into Quadic. Here's the reservoir, and I think that's actually the Rossin Dam. And then it's going down into one of the endangered areas, which is right here. Is that long something? Lower, yeah. So that's one of the 10 endangered areas within the state of Connecticut. Okay, so you did see that water
Yes.
situation.
Their concerns, I believe, Ms. Held, I believe is the name?
Yes.
When we spoke last week about on this map and everything about the area being excavated and everything, and he said, and it was in the map too, that there was 15 feet in one spot, down to roughly 35 feet, where you're gonna be roughly 4 or 5 feet above the water table. I think I'm close on it. I remember you saying, pointing it all out when you were recently doing it in the beginning.
I don't think we're digging up to 35, we're probably about 18 feet or so at the most.
Oh, I apologize for that, but I thought there was one spot you said where it would be a little deeper than over here.
You are correct, though, that we're not intercepting the groundwater table with the
Right,
excavation.
and through that whole evening, he also said, according to Mr. Ross and himself, said that they would not use any water from the property or from the pond or whatever, they were gonna use calcium. I have a little about using calcium to a certain point. Calcium's good, but, you know, to me, water, and if they're willing to truck the water in to take care of the dust control, I prefer to see that, okay? But he said that wouldn't be a problem, Mr. Rossi. And the other thing is, I went and saw the town supervisor foreman of the town of Thompson's highway department, and I asked him to look at the culvert underneath Town Farm Road and to see if it would meet the criteria of trucks going over it, you know, because no oil trucks go over it, cars go over every day, but, you know, you get trucks. So I asked him if he could do a assessment for us to give us an idea, you know, from this point going forward, to help out what the people have their concerns about, you know, with the wetlands, the culvert, which would be where the street water goes underneath, because it has to be there, and also, the road conditions and egress and ingress of the property itself. So if you would like to have him speak on that, that's up to you, sir, but I did ask him to be here tonight for that. I'm done, I just,
Now, if we can go back, we have some violations that we picked up on the current permit, and then we have, an analysis for modifications for the, permit application.
we have all this in this
But
packet.
I think we should probably go over water table violations.
So thank you. We have the pertinent information in front of us, and we will make sure to examine it, thank you.
I just wanna make you aware that the current plan that exists at the test pit locations, several of them are below groundwater table. And I want you to understand, like, I'm going on record, that I have proven up based on the test pit information that, Mr. Held has put into his plan. And there are also 3 test pits that have no data up on the upper level, of the excavation. So we do not know where those water tables are, right in here.
Thank you.
We have data here, and I found that on test pit 1, 2, 3, and 4. One is below the water table, because in your zoning regulations, you mandate that excavation can only go down until 8 feet above the water table. And in the tested data that is here, that was analyzed, shows that certain of the excavations are actually now going below the water table. And I had 3 other violations, but they're in, I understand, they're in the packet.
Thank you.
She can email that to you. We can email it to everybody. That's here,
Yes, so we can send this to all of you. I can give you my email and you can request it, and I will send this so that you can read the whole thing on your own.
So that you understand.
But it's not gonna do us any good if they're voting tonight.
They didn't have to read this then.
Yes.
They can't vote
One thing
tonight.
I meant to mention, any job sites that are going on, they usually have what they call a detention pond, and that's where any flow of material gets in, then it can be escalated out, so it doesn't affect it. And that's usually what the DEP requires on job sites, or, and, you know, if it's close to wetlands or whatever. I apologize for that, I'm not saying that to you, but that's called a detention pond, to gather all the stuff.
What, may I have a question, what's the difference between a detention
Okay.
and a sedimentation basin? What's the difference between a detention and a sedimentation basin?
The detention pond is an area where they excavate it, and they dig it down to a certain level, and then they they can put, certain material like riprap or stone around the top end, so nothing can get up above it, and everything stays at the bottom, so it settles at the bottom. They usually call it a detention pond or a settlement pond, a sediment pond.
Is it here on the plans?
We don't know, but it can be
It's
put
not.
in. I didn't say it's
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
it's
no,
not
I just
there.
have, I'm curious.
Just say, clarifying to you, ma'am, that the detention pond can be put in for that reason.
Okay,
To gather the material that you're talking about that could flow into the other resources.
I understand
That's to
that.
stop it from getting,
Yes, but so that is not a requirement of the permitting process.
it doesn't have to be, but we can, if we could ask if it could be put in.
Well, that's some of the things I have in mind.
Well,
like-
you're not giving us the benefit of doubt of asking
Mr.
these
Lang,
people if we
thank
could
you.
do this.
Well,
Well,
I am.
Yeah, but we're taking your
Mr. Lang,
concerns.
Mr. Lang,
I'm taking
Mr.
your
Lang,
concerns.
No, but I know I have like, like, case in point, your modification, we have several modifications that we wanted to bring out, but they're in there, and so I would ask you to kindly read them, because they're important to us and to the town of Thompson, and to the the health and welfare of the town of Thompson, and that's why we put modifications in, because for your permits, we would like you to consider some modifications. But I think the test pits, I think you really need to look at that,
Thank you.
and I think you may need to get your, like Mr. Rice brought up in the last meeting, that NECOG, you do have an, engineer available to you that you can engage and ask him to review those plans.
Thank
And,
you.
especially I would like him to review the test pit data, because you are going, the way it's written up now, you are going below the water table in certain areas.
Thank you. Mr. Sanchez?
Remain silent here, I clearly missed the last meeting, obviously there was a lot talked about, I did read the meeting minutes, I've been over to the area. I do know that there is a lot going on in that general vicinity. It's my particular opinion that you guys have provided a lot of data, I appreciate the data. I would just like an opportunity to read through it thoroughly to make sure that we're doing our checks and balances for these people. I'm just gonna remain silent for the moment, just so I have a chance to digest everything, in fairness to
We appreciate
everyone
that.
here.
Thank you, Mr. Sanchez. Mr. Blackwell?
When is the 65 days up from this? Is it before the next meeting?
Well, you can close the public hearing, and then you have 65 days after to make your decision. But,
Well, you don't wanna close the public hearing.
yeah, well, then
Then we
you're,
can't accept any more
yeah, you can't accept,
information.
right, but you have the information right here. This is it, and so you can ask questions on this information,
No.
because you have
No,
it.
how can you ask questions on that if you close the public hearing? Who's gonna answer the question? It's gonna be something that's not gonna be in the record. The answer,
Mr. Chairman,
The
if
only
the
way
commission
you
would
can
feel
do
more
it-
comfortable with an extension, we don't have any problem.
you can ask
Okay,
the
so if the
applicant
applicant-
for an extension.
Yeah, the applicant approves the extension, but from,
You can't close the public hearing.
you just can't bring in any new information. This would not be new information if you close the public hearing. That's my,
But if I have questions on that, if I wanna question any of that information that's in there, where am I gonna get the answer?
okay, I,
From somebody that's here, right?
just
So
for
that's gonna
future
be-
information,
that's
check
gonna be
with the
new
attorney
information.
on that, because I believe that you can ask questions on it, because it was presented before the public hearing, but I'll check the
It's
attorney
gonna be
on that.
new information.
Donna Sorrow, 150 Spicer Road. I'm gonna be living across the street from the proposed site. I've been living Spicer Road for 16 years, and I love living there. There is a lot of traffic with the speedway, which, I don't mind. But, there is a lot of traffic from Rhode Island, people coming Route 44 and all that. And I just can't see adding more trucks and, traffic to that area. It is a sharp turn. There was an accident the other day.
Maybe
Bad accident right around the S turn. And these trucks are gonna be coming around the S turn, or they might not be coming, but there is another S turn up above. that road is so narrow, right around that turn. And then up above, it's a sharp turn. I just, you talked about people having, dog grooming and worried about the traffic in their yard, like 2 or 3 more cars. And this is gonna be much more. So I don't, my neighborhood's gonna be changed forever.
Is this dominated by triaxles?
Okay.
Bigger.
Is
That's
it
all I just wanted to
triaxles
say.
Dump trailers do.
Oh, trailers too? Trailer dumps?
Yeah.
Tractor
But
trailers?
they're not going up Spicer Road.
Yeah.
The truck traffic will
No,
not
I
be
know,
going on
but that
Spicer.
corner there,
Still our neighborhood.
it's right, I overlook it.
My road.
Mr. Lankin.
It's your decision, but I would think it would be best if we hear from the council on certain things to add to us to help make a better decision. Now, it's up to you to want to do it or not, it's up to you. To me, it could be fruitful or not, but
Thank
it
you.
could be a decision.
Mr. Chairman, I can address some of the issues that came up in the presentation too, if you want me to. Would this be an appropriate time?
Yeah.
Okay. So with regard to endangered species, I'm not usually a fan of telling planning and zoning commissions what they're allowed to do and what their authority is, so this is for the public's benefit as well. A planning and zoning commission is granted certain powers and privileges by the enabling legislation. The regulation of endangered species, to the best of my knowledge, is not part of that authority that's granted to the commission. As far as a soil scientist review of this site, the entire site was reviewed by a soil scientist. He's the one who flagged the inland wetlands and water courses on the site. He provided a report as part of the Inland Wetlands and Water Courses Commission application. It was deemed acceptable by them. As far as the site walk on the property with the Wetlands Commission, they had the opportunity to review the entire site. They chose to look at what they thought was important. At the end of the day, that commission, which has authority over wetlands and water courses, approved the application. Again, the Planning and Zoning Commission does not regulate wetlands and water courses. The Inland Wetlands Commission does, and they approved the application. As far as a traffic study, as I mentioned, the excavation of this site is not going to increase the traffic level on Quiet Town Farm Road over what it's historically been. The applicant has finished excavating their site on New Road. This site is basically where they're coming from that. They're not going to be removing material at a greater rate or with an increase in truck traffic. If anything, from this point north, there's not going to be truck traffic as a result of this because it's all heading south towards Putnam. As somebody mentioned, there is a likelihood that we will have to apply for a DEP discharge permit. That comes into effect if we're disturbing more than 5 acres. It is at the applicant's option if they want to reduce the scope of this excavation so that it is under 5 acres, they don't have to apply for that discharge permit. We're basically applying for what we feel is the maximum excavation potential of the site. It's always the applicant's option to lessen the scope of what they actually do. If they do choose to make that decision, we'll obviously inform both this commission and the Wetlands Commission if that's what they decided to do. As far as this not being in conformance with the POCD is a guideline document for a Planning and Zoning Commission to write zoning regulations. It does not have any regulatory effect whatsoever. It's not a regulation, it's not a rule, it's a guidance document to create zoning regulations. The zoning regulations are the regulatory mechanism that's created from that by this commission. So if we're in conformance with the zoning regulations, that's really what this commission administers. There was discussion about this not being an exempt operation, and we could not agree more, and that's exactly why we're here applying for a special permit. If we were excavating under 3,000 yards, we would not need any permit. That's a use by right, and it's an exempt operation. We're not an exempt operation. There was concerns about water filtration and the fact that you need 12 inches of topsoil. Without some sort of expertise to back that up, I would say that is absolutely not the case. For example, look at how a septic system is built. If they're built in fill, they're built in sand, so I would take exception to that. There's talk about sedimentation basins and detention basins, just to clarify that for everybody's purposes. A detention basin is something that's designed to control peak flow rates. We don't have any issues with peak flow rates off of the site, we're basically maintaining hydrologic patterns and peak flow rates at what they're going to be now. A sediment basin, if you go through the 2002 E&S guidelines, is required when you have more than 5 acres draining to a particular point. You could have 10 acres open, but if it's draining to 3 separate points, you may not need a sedimentation basin anywhere. For this particular site, we're proposing a total of 5.4 acres of disturbance. There's nowhere where we actually have 5 acres draining to a particular point. We are proposing a large earthen berm here, which will be actually at the low point of the excavation. So in effect, it does form a sedimentation basin. You don't necessarily need one, but we are in effect creating one there. So those were the technical issues that I picked up on, so if there's any more, I'd be happy to address them.
I would like to rebut some of those. Basically, you said that this on a site zoning regulation where you can take, require environmentally sensitive, evaluations by independent professionals, and that's in.
What we're not gonna do is,
No, I know, but he said that you don't have the authority, but you do have the authority in your regulations.
Thank you, thank you. Any,
I'd like to make a few comments, please. John Dalton, 352 East Thompson Road. There was the accident that occurred Saturday night, that's the most recent. Some of the S-curve is 20 feet wide, where these trucks probably will be going through. It's physically impossible for one of these trucks to be passing with another vehicle passing right next to one another. That little curve there, the second lower S curve, with the big truck coming around that corner, it's physically impossible for that truck to pass with another car. I urge all residents, bring your cameras, photograph trucks that are going, making that S curve and watch them, as well as trucks going up Quadic Road. I watched a truck today traveling Quadic Road. In order for him to, he straddled the double yellow line at his convenience because there was no one coming towards him. As he proceeded forward, a car is coming towards him. He moved over to the right and he ran over a catch basin. They're gonna take a tough hit when these trucks are going by there and they're passing another vehicle. The truck has to move to the far right for his safety and the other car's safety, but they're gonna run over those catch basins, and then we're gonna be replacing many of them. I suggest that they escrow $42,000 annually for repairs for roadway. Now, Connecticut statutes 13A103 allows up to 6 residents to petition and challenge a board or selectman when there is imperfections in the roadway or an unsafe passage. I gather that we're going to be doing that, and it'll be a challenge that we'll have to address if this permit is approved. Our adjacent state, Rhode Island, will also be affected in the event that there is a chemical spill or a oil spill, tanker truck rolls over or what have you. It'll go down Robbins Creek and then it'll enter Whitman's Pond and it'll go through Croft Farm Brook into Rhode Island. So we have another residential area that could be potentially affected, and I urge the committee to, if this permit is approved, to make sure that we have an emergency plan that in the event there is something like that, that our fire department has booms and what have you to immediately place on Robbins Brook to stop any type of chemical runoff that may enter Wakefield and Whitman's and Stump Pond. That is really important that in the event this happens, that we are prepared for that. There's a lot of drinking water and well water to be affected, as well as wildlife and the recreation users of the Aquatic State Park. Aquatic State Park has 2 trails that cross the road, as well as the entrance and the exit. So there's a lot of traffic that's gonna be passing by, and we have to watch out. There's probably some new signage will have to be put up. But I go back to Spicer Road. Why was Spicer Road automatically eliminated when that's the least path of resistance for traveling of these trucks to get them off that area? Spicer Road has, I don't know, 36 residents, and Quantic has 250, 300 residents in that direction. Plus you're putting the state park at risk, you're putting hikers, walkers. Spicer Road is the path of least resistance to get them on East Thompson Road. And I don't want those trucks coming down my road, but I'm just being realistic here. East Thompson Road can handle the traffic.
Thank you, Mr.
Now, I'd like to continue with a few other things, please.
Thank you.
The elevation is 500 feet, so naturally if there is some type of spill, it's all gonna run down.
Thank you, Mr. Dalton.
May I also talk about,
Your time is up.
Thank you.
my time is up.
Yes.
You guys are gonna have like a civil war pretty soon.
I gotta leave now before I
Yeah.
get pissed off.
Just,
Hang in there. We can come back lawyered up, so we're prepared.
I mean, if you read your book, your goal right here, Thompson residents will have confidence that the town's governance structure, you, are sound, fair, responsible, and that the facilities, services needed to address the desires of its residents. Us.
Right. I want everybody to remember, I love Thompson. I've lived here my whole life. I've lived here since I was 5 years old. Yes, I moved out for a few years to Webster, but I returned to Thompson because I love it. I've got goosebumps talking right now. I moved to Spicer Road. I lived at 143 Spicer for a number of years. The house I owned was too big for me. I was single. I moved to Thompson Road. Bought a small house there, put a bunch of money into it, lost some money. My mother passed away, and I bought my mother's house. So I remain in Thompson. That's why I'm here, because I love Thompson. And I'm not kidding anybody. I love Thompson. No matter what kind of things you hear, I love this town. That's why I'm here. Connecticut's expensive to live in. We all know it. It's difficult. It's not easy. And I'd like Thompson to be green and growing. That's what we're branding this town as, green and growing. We need to stop the mining of our natural resources to save our town. Thank you.
And can I just say, in conclusion, this is just conclusion, the town's branding of Thompson as a green and growing community that is farm-friendly and part of the last Green Valley, a National Heritage Corridor. Care for it, enjoy it, and pass it on. That's it.
I would like to
That's
say
it.
one thing, please.
Or change the landscape forever.
I do have a lot to say, but just one more little thing. Our local residents are gonna be petrified on Quantic Road, and everybody. A comprehensive well test is gonna cost $300. Can they afford it? No. But it's a psychological effect that this applicant is putting on us. We don't want it, go somewhere else, take your business elsewhere, go back to Canterbury, go back to Kittle. But not in our town. Thank you.
I have a question. Tom Lamb, 143 Quantico Farm Road. I live right across from the Wyndham Land Trust. I've been dealing with this gravel operation for 30 years. I didn't have much problem with that operation because they had the 100-foot bumper. The only problem I had is with the trucks. I live right around the corner from New Road. Yes, I have a problem. When Rawson pulls out, they're pulling a full load. When they're coming back, they highball. I live on a sweeping curve, and I can hear, most of the drivers are very courteous. There's a couple. I gotta slow it down. My concern is, I've been retired for like the last 6 years. I'm out in my yard working, and I watch these Rawson trucks go back and forth. What I wanna know is, when they come back to New Road, they're loaded with, I don't know, waste that they dump over there on New Road? Is that like silt?
Sir, remember, we're focused on this application,
All right, right,
the project.
okay,
Oh, I can't.
but when they started doing the gravel operation there, they're all done with New Road. Where are they gonna bring this waste? I'm just assuming it's waste, you know, like silt, clay, or whatever. Are they gonna be bringing that back and dumping it over there? Or maybe the engineer can explain to me. Is it waste after they process it at the plant?
Is that your question, Mr. Lamb?
Beg your pardon?
Is that your question,
That's my question.
Mr. House?
Sure, so actually the restoration plan for this does call for trucking in of silt. The purpose of that is to make a soil medium that can actually grow vegetation a little bit better.
Okay, you answered my question. I didn't know if it was just junk,
Thank you, Mr. House. Thank you, Mr. House.
but I would like to see the, you know, like the, lady over here said, you know, they highball.
Thank you.
You know, they gotta slow it down.
I'm sorry,
Almost that.
I want to address you, I don't want to address him, so I'm not trying to be rude to him by not looking at him, but, because I'm trying to give you the respect of the board. He had said that the traffic is only gonna be going in one direction, and I know we're not talking about New Road right now, and I'm not trying to bring that into the conversation, but as far as traffic goes, New Road has not been reclaimed yet, so there will be traffic going to New Road unless all those reclamation materials for the New Road project is already on that property. I don't know that answer. I just want to know, is there going to be any trucks going the other way to finish that project, to close out that bond?
I'm sorry. So, I mean, so the, in regards to this
Traffic,
project,
traffic.
the
I'm talking about traffic.
Because we did bring it up.
will not increase based on historical results. Is that correct?
Thank you.
Mr. Lamb?
What people don't realize is, I live on the north side of Buck Hill Road. That's like a major, almost a major highway. I can count, well, first of all, my son and I were out working out in the yard on a Saturday. 70% of the cars that roll by are out of state. They're either Rhode Island or Mass. We're a direct route. I have tractor trailers, 50-foot boxes going by my house. Example, Hull, he hauls during the winter, twice a day, he was hauling a 53-foot box of wood chips.
Point of order, we're not talking about another project, remember?
He's going up to Rhode Island.
We're gonna stay focused on this
Okay,
project.
well, I'm just telling you about traffic.
Thank you.
One more question, Mr. Perotti. Now, there are questions that we have in this presentation. How does the board plan to answer those questions for us? I know you're all taking it and you're gonna read it, but how are we going to get the answers, our answers to these questions?
Thank you. My sense from, and fellow commissioners, correct me if I'm wrong, is that this is going to be a continuing conversation. I heard Mr. Santos say that he wants more time, Mr. Rice indicated. So my sense is at the next meeting.
So the board will come with answers to these questions at the next meeting?
As we are.
Okay, thank you.
I know I'm like the peanut gallery over here.
What's your name and?
So yeah, so Marie Costa, 125 New Road. So we actually are the home that was built on New Road in the gravel site. And the one thing I want to mention from personal experience is that I do think there are health concerns to doing this. When they are doing the gravel operation, you do have that dust, even though they're trying to suppress it. You do have that dust blowing towards you when you're in close proximity. So I know in the presentation you mentioned there was a close resident, Kelly Clark, with her son that has respiratory issues. So I don't want you to overlook that because that is certainly a health concern by the dust in itself. And obviously, as a resident right there in that gravel pit, I can tell you that when there were continuing operations, that the dust was flowing more toward us, even with the wind. So that I do feel like that is a concern, and I don't want you to overlook that.
I'm sorry, could you repeat your name?
It's okay.
please?
Marie Costa.
COSTA, and what address on the road?
125 New Road.
Robert Lemieux, 480 Quattuck Farm Road. I know you can't talk about the past projects, but like East Thompson Road project, that was 100 acres, that's just flat now. New Road, same thing, flat now. But those weren't in a major area. I mean, you've got 3 bad turns right there. You guys gotta look at that. I mean, people fly on that road. I mean, and it's not, the truck drivers are pretty decent, but I always have to stop coming through the S-turn. I live right there. They go right through the middle of the S-turn because they cannot turn that corner. They can't. And the road is getting destroyed. And this has been, how many years? 14 years? We've had enough. They took enough gravel. Can we, you guys just say enough's enough? We're the taxpayers. They're not. What are we making off them? $2,300. It's nothing. They're making all the money. We get nothing but destroyed roads and pissed off citizens.
Thank you.
Where are this packet of other questions, so I know where
Oh,
They're all
there's
through.
a whole packet that your zoning.
He has it.
Yeah, he has one, yeah.
They go, they're on individual slides,
No,
they
he doesn't
don't.
have, he doesn't
Yes, he
have.
does. Yeah, the secretary made a copy for all of the commissioners.
Yeah,
Oh,
she
is
made-
it, it's side to
Is this in
side,
here?
back to back, okay, so
We all-
back
so
to
it's
back,
just-
right.
Yeah.
And you have the exhibits too, correct?
Yes.
Exhibits, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
okay, you just,
Well,
yeah.
I'm just saying that I would like to have our town supervisor
Great.
speak up because the concerns that were brought up by the individual himself, this gentleman here, he's the one that maintains the road, so obviously he has to be repaired, so he can give us what it's gonna take and everything, and Mr. Benoit would like to do this, would be greatly appreciated with the information that you give us.
Are you prepared to do so? I can answer any questions that you have. I don't have a full report, because there's really not much to report. I can clear the air as far as the water flow that comes out of the pond. At the moment, there is no water flow coming out of the pond. The reason why is because there's some sort of a man-made structure that was put in years past. I can't quite figure out how it works, why it works, or what it does, but I believe there is a concrete pipe that goes under the road. I don't have any accurate knowledge of when that was installed, but it seems to be some sort of a man-made damming structure that the water has to come over to go into the pipe. Unfortunately, with this town's use of salt sand over the years and erosion from stormwater and stuff coming down the road, whatever system is there is plugged solid. That was something that we discovered today. I was on site this morning. So whatever water is on the south side of the road is either seepage that's coming under the road, following the pipe past the path of the resistance, or any stormwater flow that's coming off of the road in the southern side. As far as road conditions on Quattuck Farm Road due to any truck traffic or extended traffic, honestly, it's probably in better shape than most roads in this town. I get it. Listen, you people can laugh all you want, but I'm a resident of this town. I have an opinion on this, but I am trying my best to stay neutral. The road is junk. They're all junk.
the turns and what it's gonna
I
do.
understand that. My job coming into this 14 months ago was to establish what the issues were in town with the roads and try to fix them. I'm trying to do that. This project has nothing to do with me. I have no vested interest in it. I've never met Mr. Rawson until this morning.
I'm a neutral party. My interest is in the roads. I can't put blame on anybody to the condition of the road. It needs work. They all need work. I can't give a definite answer to anybody to say, well, this part of the road is messed up. It's 2.5 miles from Aquatic State Park, which is the end of the state road, to the site that we're talking about. Some sections of the road, I would give a 9 out of 10. Some sections of the road, I would give a 3 out of 10 on a rating scale. It's hard to put a number on the entire road. There's issues, the road has had work done to it. I was informed by one of my more seasoned employees that approximately 20 years ago, portions of that road were reclaimed. Reclaiming is grinding the existing surface of the road into the subsurface to help formulate a base to support the road surface that's put back on. The problem is years ago, people didn't use the technologies that we have today to help to reinforce any of the softer areas and sections of the road. There are some low-lying sections that are potentially wetter than others, where water settles, not necessarily wetlands, but they're just a soggy spot where any traffic, including heavy truck traffic, will help to push the road out and basically break the road apart, which is one of the main issues that we're seeing on that road. It is something that as a town, we're gonna have to fix. Unfortunately, no matter what happens on that road, whether somebody puts in a gravel bank or a Lowe's distribution center, the town of Thompson taxpayers are responsible for maintaining the safe access of that road. So please don't laugh at me when I'm trying my best to be a neutral party and do what's best for everybody involved.
Mr. Perotti, one more thing. You have this in part of your packet, but I don't think that some people in the audience and the Rossins know this. But we do have a petition that we have put together, and we now have 107 people that have signed this, and we have more coming in. And it says, "We, the undersigned, petition that the permit for the gravel mining of 363 Aquatic Town Farm Road be denied by the Thompson Planning and Zoning Commission because it is in direct conflict with the preservation of open space and agricultural land as outlined in several Thompson plans, is in documented areas of aquatic and environmental fragility, and is not in the best interest of the neighborhood as a residential area." Thank you.
I have one small question.
Yes, ma'am.
Paul Nelson, 355 Aquatic Town Farm Road. As I stated before, I've lived there 40 years. And this dust will come directly onto my property. I'm directly across the road. The tenant before continually had fires, and I could not even sit out in my yard because of the fires.